Hi, Coach Sandy Nightpaper here. Welcome back to my channel, Running Wild, and today, jump right into it. I got a blood test done from Athlete Blood Test, so athlete-specific blood testing. I got their gold panel done, and so I thought it'd be interesting to kind of go through my blood test and see what I look at for myself and also all the athletes I coach. Now, I'm not an expert, but over the years, I have tried to learn as much as I can, at least what I think is really important for athletes to look at. And I'm really excited. This is the first time I've ever gotten a blood test panel that was this extensive. And the cool thing about Athlete Blood Test is that they also offer expert advice. Yeah, so I never, normally I just analyze everything myself, so it's really cool to have an expert opinion and somebody looking over my blood test before me and see what they think from an athlete perspective. So, just to start off, I should say I am sponsored by Athlete Blood Test, but they actually didn't even tell me to do this video. I really just thought it was interesting because I know my athletes think it's interesting, and this is stuff we discuss all the time. And so hopefully you guys find it interesting too. So no, I'm sponsored by them, and I will put a discount code in the summary below. But again, they're not forcing me to this video. I'm hoping it's just educational and informative for you, and also hopefully put in a way that's understandable. So just to start off, they do have a normal versus ideal range. So the normal range would be, well, I'll just read they have here is the lab determined values pertaining to the general population, and then they have their ideal range, which is basically they're taking into my gender, age, how much I train, and just really athlete specific stuff here. So normal range and then their ideal range. So just a little overview before I get into it. They said it overall was excellent. I'll just read this. Overall, your blood markers are looking excellent, especially given the level of training you are currently doing. We did identify a few markers that could be improved upon. It is best to compare these test results to prior blood chemistries to see if they're consistent with your baseline values or if there has been a deviation. So yeah, overall I was really happy with my blood test results, and everything that was off I could have predicted or even said ahead of time, except for one thing. One thing did kind of throw me off, so I'll talk about that and say why I think that is. It is very important. They said compare with past blood test. And if you could see, you probably can't see my computer. I think there's a glare. And I will do more video screenshots of my computer so you can see my test results better and know I'm not joking with you or not saying anything correctly. But on my tab here is a bunch of past blood tests. So I have been comparing. And I do think that's important. Oh, and I should say before I even took this test, when I was that's not a good way to put it. Before I even went in to get my blood drawn, Athlete Blood Test, they did have me fill out a questionnaire which talks about how I'm feeling, my training intensities, and a bunch of other things. And they did throw in a few other blood markers for me because they're coming out with a new female hormone specific blood test, which I'm super excited that they're doing that. It's so important for female athletes, and it's cool to have that little extra data. So I will show a couple extra markers to begin with. But yeah, let's start going through the blood test. Hopefully I'm not rambling too much right now. Oh, but I was saying, yeah, it's really important to track your blood test over time and say how you're feeling. And do you think you should do it during different stages of training? So sometimes, it's good to do it during an off season to see what your markers are there, and then see how they change as your training levels change, your mileage, your intensities. And then if you're like me and you do more mountain stuff, or you like to run a lot in the summer, that's when I notice I have to be really careful, and blood tests help me show that. So right now it's summer. I love running down mountains, but there's a lot of downhill stress. It's hot, just a lot of long days in the mountains. So in the past, I've learned if I'm not careful in the summer, something's gonna go wrong. Normally for me, it would be iron gets really low. I've had trouble with, I don't want to say trouble my entire life, but I've definitely been anemic when I was in high school, when I was eating very differently than I do now. I'm not going to hide that I am a vegan athlete now, and so my iron is actually lower when I still ate meat and dairy. Maybe that's to do something with vitamin C intake. I'm not sure. My body just getting used to things. So okay, I'm gonna actually show you my blood test now. So female hormones, I look at FSH, luteinizing hormone, progesterone, estrogen, and all these look pretty good. And so for the female test, they do ask like what phase of your menstrual cycle you're in. So that's really cool, because then of course like all these markers are going to change depending on what phase of your cycle you're in. But I don't want to get too much into it, because I know a little bit, but not enough. But if you are a female thinking about getting some of this stuff done, know that you will get expert advice if you get this gold, or I think it's to be ABT She panel for women on the athlete blood test. But yeah, so happy there. Everything looked good for where I'm at in training right now. Okay, so first page, looking at a lot of your basic CBC stuff, or complete blood cell count. Really happy with it. The main things I'll look at, well, I kind of look at everything, but everything's pretty much within the ideal range here. But I especially will look at the red blood cell, hemoglobin, hematocrit, and these numbers are actually like a little high for me, which is, I was kind of surprised with, because sometimes during the summer months, your blood plasma volume increases, so these numbers don't necessarily always look high, even though sometimes you would expect them to get higher with increased training or altitude training. But for me, like, they would sometimes get lower during this time of year. But these are like really good for me. So I think, I'm guessing that just because I've been running quite a bit, but with no races, I haven't been training super hard either. So maybe that just helped me to have really good training adaptions right now. So yeah, hematocrit 46.3, hemoglobin 14.9, red blood cell count 4.94. And this stuff is going to be important to remember later when I look at my iron, and so I'll explain a little bit more about that now. And I should say, like, I'll give you some of my numbers, and I'll show you on the screen, but do not compare yourself to me. Numbers are going to look drastically different between athletes. Well, not, obviously there's a range here, but for me it's like, I know even these numbers change for a variety of reasons, and I said, like, I know these numbers are a little bit actually really quite good for me. Not the highest they've been, but they're pretty darn close. So don't, and especially between females and males, things are definitely going to be different in that regards too. So anyway, first part looks good. They say levels near upper limit of ideal range are desirable for endurance athletes. You can rest assured red blood cell levels are fully maximized for long endurance events. So yeah, everything looking good there. So it's also really cool to get the expert summary right here. So this is where you start seeing things a little bit off for me, but again, these are things I could have predicted before I even did the blood test. So white blood cell count, a little low, can be typical for athletes, especially with higher levels of training. So I'll just read what they said. Lower levels of white blood cells are relatively common finding in endurance athletes. However, we usually see a normal distribution in the breakdown of white blood cells. In your breakdown, you see that I'm not going to say this right, lymphocytes fall outside the normal range. Without looking at a past blood report, we can't tell you if this is normal finding for you or an anomaly. Many causes can contribute to low lymphocytes and white blood cells. Most commonly for athletes, it can be due to excessive stressors from training or inadequate calorie intake. So for me, right before I did this test, I did my highest vert week of the entire year, and I only had 2 easier days before I took this test. So I know that's why this marker was a little bit off, and I could have said that before I even took the test. All right, so scrolling down. Okay, so now we're looking at glucose, chloride, bunch of other things. It's going to take forever to go through everything, so I'll just kind of breeze through it a little bit, but everything looked good on this part. All your comprehensive metabolic panel biomarkers are within the ideal range. So happy with that. Moving on to more interesting things like iron. So my iron was 67, ferritin was 29. So for the athlete blood test ideal range, I'm slightly low. For me, I am not low. As I said, I've had anemia in the past. Yeah, my ferritin's been a little bit higher before, but at the same time, like, it's really not bad for me. And going back to what I was talking about before about red blood cell count, hemoglobin, hematocrit, you know, if you look at those numbers and look at these, you know I'm not anemic or have an iron deficiency. These are just my pretty good range. Not great, as I said. Looking at blood test. Not sure if this one has ferritin. Oh, so this is actually the highest my ferritin's ever been, which was 67, which is, I've never been able to get close to that number of ferritin, except for this test. So maybe I went in this test a little bit dehydrated, but normally it is, this is 28 ferritin. This is 39, so that's would be a little better for me. I would like to see it more in the 30s, but again, like, going back to the athlete blood test, 29, like, it's not too shabby for me. I'm not really worried about it, but maybe I will try to get it a little bit higher. But, and I know I've said this in other videos, I am a vegan athlete, but the research on vegan athletes has shown that vegan plant-based athletes, you're not more likely to have iron deficiency or iron anemia. However, your iron stores are likely to be a little bit lower, but as long as all the other numbers are good, like for me, like, it's fine. It's not bad to have lower iron stores necessarily. So pretty much what all the research on vegan athletes said, like, yeah, iron stores aren't super high, but it's not a bad thing, and I'm feeling really good right now. So maybe I'll try to link more to that in the summary below. But again, like, this is good for me. It's not necessarily good for me to have my iron a lot higher. So yeah, and I appreciate that they take that into account here. They said, like, they did say that you know, if you're looking at all endurance athletes, my numbers might be a little bit low, but at the same time, for some people, these numbers can be really good. And I have seen, like, coaches who coach female athletes, they're like, I want all my female athletes to have a ferritin above 50. That's crap. That's just something they heard and repeated, and trying to get all their athletes to, like, above 50 or something could be very unnatural for that athlete. And I know athletes who perform at an Olympic level and they might have a ferritin in their low 20s or even a little bit below 20, and they perform perfectly fine because that's where their body's naturally supposed to be at. So don't try to force your ferritin to be super high by taking a bunch of iron supplements or more than you need to, because too many iron supplements definitely is not a good thing. So they do offer some suggestions, which I will actually take, just because I would, as I said, I would like to get my ferritin just a little bit higher. So they said, the AV said what not to take iron supplements with. So pretty typical, don't take iron with coffee, tea, soda. Don't take it with other supplements like zinc, calcium, magnesium, copper. And also don't eat with eggs, which I don't have to worry about. And then I always try to take my iron supplement with vitamin C. A lot of times the easiest thing for me is just putting a little bit of lemon juice in water and then taking my iron pill that way. And they did offer a suggestion, which I did take them up on. They said a strategy they seem to work is by doing iron in the morning and then adding a time release iron at bedtime. An example of time release iron that we like is Douglas Labs time released iron. So I actually just purchased this Douglas Labs time release iron yesterday, so I will start trying it, that just to see what happens and see if I can, if it'll be easier a way to absorb a little bit more iron. Oh, and this is a really good point too. They said recent research suggests that using every other day dosing of iron might also help with absorption, and I have started seeing those studies within the past year. I've seen more of them pop up too. And for a long time I did take iron supplements every single day, but now I am trying to do mostly every other day, and I'll try to take my iron supplements on my easier days versus my workout days, or my speed workout or more intense run days. So yeah, I think that's a really good tip that's not exactly well known yet. It's to take iron every other day. Hydration. So my creatine serum was a little high. Again, totally knew that before, just because of where I was at with training and doing a lot of vert. And that is something I typically see high in a lot of endurance athletes. Now, if I was in a big recovery period or an off season, I would hope this wouldn't be high, because then it would be a little bit more red flag. But right now, it's just like, oh yeah, that was expected. Okay. All right, so now we're going into micronutrient analysis. So this is where I got a little thrown off. But I'll save the one I got thrown off with for last. So actually, talk about vitamin D first. So my vitamin D was slightly low for the athlete blood test ideal range. And so this is kind of my own experiment that I've been doing pretty much since May. So been wearing hats more just to cover up my face, and wearing a ton of sunscreen, just because, cancer runs in my family, and I'm worried about skin cancer, and I also don't want the skin damage. And you see a lot of skin damage living in Colorado, where the sun is very intense at times. So been wearing just a lot of sunscreen. And I know some people are going to say something about sunscreen, but I do wear a more natural sunscreen, about typically SPF 50 or SPF 30. Where was I going with this? Okay, so this time of year, I'm wearing shorts, wearing tank tops, so my skin gets exposed to the sun a lot more. So in past years, I could start taking less vitamin D this time of year compared to in the winter months, when I'm totally covered up when I'm running outside because it's cold. And normally it's totally fine, but because I've been extra cautious about wearing suntan lotion and covering up a little bit more, my vitamin D is a little bit lower. And so now that's something I just know, because I am extra cautious, that I do just have to supplement a little bit more with vitamin D this time of year than I normally do. And to be honest, before this test, I may have been taking vitamin D maybe once a week. So now I'll start taking a little bit more vitamin D, maybe 2 to 3 times a week. I know I'm still getting a little bit from the sun, especially since I don't wake up super early or run super late. But it was a good experience for me just to test it out and see what would happen if I wear some more suntan lotion and don't take vitamin D as much. So now I know. B12, so my B12 was super high, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's really hard to overdose on vitamin D. But their range only goes up to 2,000, and looks like I was probably over that. And they said this typically happens when somebody gets a B12 shot, and that's true. So they were dead on with that, and that's because I had to get a Hep A booster I guess now it's been a couple months ago. And they also do B12 shots there, so it's getting my Hep A shot or my booster, and it's well, may as well get a B12 shot. Won't have to think about taking a pill for a while. And although I do kind of like taking pills because they taste like candy, so that's probably part of my reason why it's so high. So anyway, it's high, and it's because I got the B12 shot. So now I know, like, I really don't have to take B12 for a while. But again, like, being too high on B12, like, yeah, definitely just stop taking B12 supplements for a while, but it's not hurting my health either. So this is what really threw me off, and I looked at it, I'm like, there's no way. And it kind of was upsetting to me for a little bit, but it was my folate serum. It was well within the normal range, but for the athlete blood test ideal range, they said it was slightly low. And so folate serum, it's gotten from plants. And as a plant-based athlete, I'm eating plants all day long. And so this is like the last thing I expected to be low. And they listed a bunch of foods there's folate serum in it. I'm like, I eat all this already. And so doing a little bit of research and trying to think why it would be low, came across a couple possibilities. One is that for dinner, Sage and I normally cook our veggies, and a lot of times, whoever is making dinner, we always get distracted and we leave our veggies in the oven or on the stovetop a little too long, and that can actually hurt the folate serum within the vegetables. So don't overcook your veggies. So try not to do that so much anymore. Actually set the timer and then not ignore it. So doing that, it can also, things that can hurt absorption is also alcohol, but I know that's not the problem for me. While I do have beer in some videos, I actually don't drink that much. I probably drink 1 to 2 nights a week and only like 1 or 2 beers. So that's not enough to hurt absorption of folate serum. Another thing is the B12 supplement Sage and I typically get has folate in it, but the past couple months, our B12 supplement didn't have folate in it, so maybe my body was just used to absorbing it from a synthetic form, and then I didn't have that form, so my body wasn't absorbing quite as well. And I did think, it's been a hot minute since I researched this, but I do think you might be able to absorb folate serum a little bit better from the synthetic kind that's found in supplements. So again, like, it's in the normal range for general like lab results, just not quite ideal for folate serum. But anyway, I already do the recommendations, but there's little things I can tweak, like not cooking my veggies as long. But anyway, what else? Oh, so this is this training tolerance. So this looks at my cortisol, testosterone, DHEA, T3, TSHs, free testosterone. Show a screenshot of this, and everything was pretty much in the ideal range, so pretty happy with that. My cortisol was 16.9, the range is 6 to 23. See, total testosterone was 19, range is 12 to 48. I'm happy with that. What they had to say, training tolerance markers including hormones, organ enzymes, and white blood cell indices are within ideal ranges. These findings suggest excellent training tolerance over your current training plan and excellent recoverability. Parentheses, the ability for muscles to recover following training induced muscle breakdown. Athletes with ideal training tolerance markers can typically handle higher amounts of high-intensity interval training and resistance training than athletes with less optimal findings. Based on these findings, there is no concern in increasing training volume and or intensity if desired. So really happy with all those results. And it shows like I'm training a really good amount for me, handling it well. So that's like, these are all things I never get on my own. So it was really cool to actually see some of these numbers for the first time and also get an expert opinion on it. Okay, so they go on to say a little bit more, but that's basically my overall blood test results. I will be interested to get a blood test again in about a month, just to see how my body's handling the altitude training. And it's also really hot here. It's been like 100 degrees in Boulder, and of course like the home AC and my car AC are both broken right now, so the heat training is 24/7 right now. So yeah, it'll be interesting to look back and compare. Trying to think if I had anything else to say here. But yeah, overall, like, I'm happy with my results. Just really like couple tweaks that I'll adjust to my diet or supplement intake. But nothing to worry about. I feel great. I said that before I took the test. It's been a few weeks since I took this test now. Still feel great, and that's really the most important thing. So it was really cool for me to get a full analysis like this. But if you're not quite ready for this, typically what I'll at least have athletes start with is a CBC, iron, ferritin, B12, well, at least CBC, iron, and ferritin. That's definitely the main place to start. And then if you want to add on a little bit more, vitamin D, B12, magnesium, things like that are really good next step. And so those are things just track consistently over the years. I like to get at least 2 blood tests a year. Now I'm going to start getting 3 or 4 a year, thanks to Athlete Blood Test. But yeah, typically twice a year is going to be good for most people. And yeah, it's really interesting to track over time and can help with your training and see how your body responds to different training throughout the year. So I think I rambled on enough at this point. Hopefully you found this a little bit informative. And again, just want to say I'm not a doctor or an expert on the subject. I just know a little bit throughout the years, so always seek expert advice if you have any questions, especially about yourself. Again, don't compare your numbers to mine. You should be different. You're a different person. And I think I rambled enough. So thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep running wild.